The Grammy goes to Cowboy Carter. Beyonce. Beyonce.
Of all the albums Beyonce's done, why is Cowboy Carter the one that's won Album of the Year? I'm a Beyonce purist, and even though I will always stand by the fact the self-titled album should have been Beyonce's Album of the Year win, I understand why Cowboy Carter broke through instead. The market has been infiltrated by goods that snatch up the consumer's attention while not really adding anything to the larger conversation outside of that initial splash. In fact, researchers have found that average humans have an attention span of 8.25 seconds, specifically when it comes to videos, meaning that our favorite artists only get about 10 seconds to show us what they've got before we move on to the next big thing that's fighting for our attention. This is why an album like Cowboy Carter could rise to the surface.
When I'm connected to something, I immediately see a visual or a series of images that are tied to a feeling or an emotion, a memory from my childhood, thoughts about life, my dreams or my fantasies.
The obvious care Beyonce has taken in creating this 3-album arc, preparing the visuals and marketing each era to the world, shines through and allows for crossover appeal to a wider audience. We as a consumer need to immediately know what an artist is trying to sell us before we buy into the product. This means that the visuals of an era have to be translated at hyper speed. The consumer needs to be able to immediately tell what their faves are peddling as soon as they see the artist without being given any type of explanations. For this to happen, an artist has to have a cohesive look in their styling and a streamlined message even before we hear their album, or they start speaking. Beyonce gave us just that in this Cowboy Carter era, even more than the Renaissance era. I mean, anytime you saw her in this era, she was in character as Cowboy Carter, with her ice blonde wig, her cowboy hats, big buckles, long coats, denim on denim. Everything screamed Cowboy Carter, and this immediately gave fans something that they could latch onto, even before we knew what the album would sound like. This is a huge step up from past Beyonce eras. After all, in the past, Beyonce's visual albums have been beautiful things to look at. Some, like Lemonade and Black is King, have even delved into the richness of Black history and Black womanhood specifically. However, they've also always stayed separated from Beyonce's creative arc. With Renaissance and Cowboy Carter, there's a through line that anyone can follow, whether they are catching the surface level messaging as a random fan who's new and just popping into the BeyHive, or if they're latching onto the deeper message as a Black fan that's in the know and tracing the music roots of Renaissance and Cowboy Carter back to the source of our rich culture. The messaging of Cowboy Carter and even Renaissance is reclamation, and it can be felt instantly no matter what track you choose to play from either album. And that messaging is what won Beyonce this Album of the Year.